Hello there. As 2021 marks the 50th anniversary of the first official episode, welcome to my review of the TV series Columbo. In my opinion, the world's greatest detective. Sorry, Batman. As this is the first episode, this will be an introduction to the series and the character before I review each episode individually. I'll be starting with the first official broadcast episode of the series, Murder by the Book. There were two pilots, the first in 1968, Prescription Murder, based on a play that was based on an earlier TV movie, all written by William Link and Richard Levinson. Apparently, this was always intended to be a one-off, but performed so well that NBC requested a real pilot from which the series was greenlit. Link and Levinson have said that they were inspired by the detective Petrovich in Crime and Punishment, as well as Father Brown in the G.K. Chesterton novels. In Prescription Murder, Columbo has a few of the quirks that the character would later become well known for, but if not for Peter Falk, would be largely unrecognisable.
Lieutenant Columbo, police.
Falk is very young, smartly dressed, with a short, neat haircut, and is much angrier and far less amiable to all the characters.
You were there when he strangled her, weren't you?
The second pilot is much closer to the Columbo series, but still isn't quite there. The writers seem to still be finding their feet. It's for that reason that I'll be starting with Murder by the Book. If you haven't seen Columbo before, or maybe not for a while, I would recommend giving it a proper look. There are a few weaker episodes, which I will discuss when I get to them, but in general the quality is very high, due in part to the fact that it was a wheel show. That means that when it began, it alternated between episodes of Macmillan and Wife and MacLeod, so it wasn't a weekly show. Nor was it a series of 20 plus episodes a season, giving the writers far more time to craft the mystery. Except it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery show. With only a few exceptions, we see the murderer right from the start. We see them plan and carry out a usually incredibly complex and intricate murder that seems perfect. Much later, often after the first ad break, we meet Columbo, who then proceeds to unpick the red herrings and attach the real clues through the course of the show before finally arresting the murderer. He does this in several different ways, using several different techniques, depending on the adversary. The mainstay of these being his ability to make his opponent underestimate him by looking and sounding like a clueless buffoon. He's shabbily dressed with a gravelly New York drawl and pretends to know nothing about anything.
Lieutenant, do you happen to know your IQ?
Mine, sir? Oh, no, sir. No, they took it in the army, but they never told us.
Sometimes he charms the murderer. Sometimes they charm him. Sometimes he annoys them or angers them. Sometimes they do the same to him. Occasionally he feels sympathy for them, but he never takes joy in their capture. He often discusses his wife and extended family, and opinions vary as to whether any of them exist. But Falk maintained that the wife definitely does exist, even if all the other family members are a ruse. I would agree with that, although I think everything he says about her is almost certainly made up, especially if he's talking to the killer. That's really what everything is about for Columbo. Everything he says to any other character is likely to be true. everything he says to the killer is likely to be some form of a lie. I'm of the opinion that Columbo knows who the killer is within the first 5 minutes of attending the crime scene, and not because it's a prominent real-life film or TV star playing the character. If all murderers bared a striking resemblance to William Shatner or Janet Leigh or Johnny Cash, it would make police work a lot easier. The murderers are usually high-status people, with either power, money, influence or intellect, or certainly the image of one or all of those things. This allows Columbo to use that against them. They assume that they are smarter or better than him, and it really wouldn't work if they were of a lower status. Partly because it's cathartic for the audience to see the powerful not get away with something, but also because they would be far less likely to underestimate Columbo. The other thing that I really like about Columbo is that in some ways it's much more realistic than other mystery fiction. He's a cop, so he's supposed to be investigating the crime. He's not a mystery writer or little old lady or doctor or chef, and so he's supposed to be there. If I turned up at a crime scene saying I'd quite like to have a go at catching the killer, I doubt the police would be particularly happy for the helping hand. Also, it's usually the most obvious suspect, which is true for a lot of real-life murders, certainly the ones that get solved. Columbo deals with the small inconsistencies that are often overlooked and puts them under a microscope, then asks the suspect to explain it and weighs whether that explanation is believable, which it usually isn't. What I plan to explore in my reviews is the good and the bad, what works and what doesn't in individual episodes, and also the cast and crew and their stories. Hope you enjoy. Just one more thing. If you do enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe. Thank you. Goodbye.